VONDA KNOX, the author, who wrote the book, Beyond Tragedy: A Story of Shanann Watts, has made a few Facebook posts in a group regarding the Watts murders. On these posts I asked her a few questions. However, the posts are now gone from Facebook. I copied the posts but not the replies, so I can only tell you what she said to me. Vonda, for those that don't know, is the mother of Chris and Shanann's next-door neighbor Nate, who had the video recordings of Chris that morning when he was loading up his work truck. This is the post Vonda added that I asked her the questions on. I asked her if the footage she had seen from the morning of the 13th of August is the same footage that we are all watching. She replied that she had seen all the footage that Nate has and that it is the same as we are now watching. Which for me means I am no longer sure about this footage now, because I was under the belief that some of the footage we're watching is faked. I asked Vonda if she saw the person coming out the garage, and was it in her mind a male or a female. She replied she only saw Chris coming out the garage that morning. That's all she said about that. I asked how come the camera never picked up Shanann walking up the path to her front door, when car headlights turn the camera to record, and as we hear from Nicole Atkinson, she pulled into the driveway to let Shanann out of the car, so therefore the camera should have been recording at this point anyway. She replied that it does not reach that distance, so would not start recording. I find this very odd because the car that pulled into or out of the driveway from Watts' house had started Nate's camera recording on Saturday night. She also told me Nate's camera records 24/7, so with that in mind I asked again why it had not picked up Shanann walking to her house. She said the gap is very small between the tree and the house and Nate's camera again does not start recording from that distance. I again messaged Vonda a few weeks later via Messenger. My message to Vonda. Hi Vonda, I hope you don't mind me messaging you. I have spoken to you before on the Facebook group, but the post about the Happy Meals has gone now, so could not ask you on there. I was wondering if you knew anything about the supposed tire tracks at the back of Watts' house. I have seen a picture of them but cannot be sure if they're from that night or a previous time. Did Nate have a camera out back? Why did Nate's camera not catch Shanann walking up the path if it records all the time? But it caught a person coming out the garage that morning. Can I ask your opinions on what you think happened? Do you think Chris acted alone? I appreciate your talking to me in previous posts on Facebook and I value your opinion. Thank you so much. Vonda's message to me. Hi, the tire tracks were from the construction workers. There were constantly trucks going back and forth. Nate did not have a camera out back. The sidewalk to the house is blocked by the tree and the porch goes in, so it is not visible from Nate's house. The only thing that is visible from Nate's camera was the driveway, and that was limited. I think Chris acted alone. No one ever saw NK around. The windows in the back are very deep with window wells, so using them as an entrance would be noticeable. Nate's dogs were in the backyard and they barked at everything. There are so many theories that just don't make sense to me. I took my posts down as some people are so crazy, rude and cruel. Sad, take care. My message to Vonda. Thank you, that makes a lot of sense. I noticed there were like long metal rods on the other side of the fence also, plus construction was happening at that time. Believe me, I have heard some wild theories myself, a lot of them just don't even add up. He was alone for 5 weeks, he said NK came to the house twice. I don't personally think anyone would have taken any notice of her, because Shanann had a few friends over her house a lot of the time, by what I read and hear from her friends. What do you think about the September lady? Could she have been NK? I also heard it may have been someone from Chris's defense team. Thank you so much for making time to reply to me, I appreciate it. You take care also. Vonda's reply. Hi, I really think people would have noticed if Shanann was out of town and Chris brought someone around. The few times he did, I am betting he took great care not to be seen. Yes, the September woman was from Chris's defense team. My thoughts on all this. I think regarding NK going to the house, myself I don't think anyone would have taken any notice because Shanann was popular and had many friends. So I don't at all think NK would have been noticed going to the house, and also the neighbors didn't even know Shanann was away. They said that themselves on the body cam footage. I don't really know what to think about these conversations and what has been said by Vonda. What do you all think? Vonda also spoke to Fox News. This is what was said. Vonda Knox can still vividly recall the first and only time she interacted with neighbor Chris Watts. It was a Sunday morning, and the grandmother was sipping on coffee out on her back porch while dog-sitting, with her children out of town. I saw him on his porch and said, "Good morning." He turned around and looked at me like I had no business speaking to him. I thought it was really odd. It's one thing if you're shy, but he really gave me this look. Like, why are you talking to me? You certainly don't expect someone to react that way over a simple hello. But no one could have possibly anticipated what happened afterward. Knox has spoken out in the new documentary on Tubi about the shocking murders involving the Watts family, Suburban Nightmare, Chris Watts. It takes a closer look at the seemingly doting father who later became what experts have described as a family annihilator. It features new interviews with investigators and others who are closely associated with the case that rocked Frederick, Colorado. Knox said she participated in the special in hopes of addressing the numerous conspiracy theories that continue to spread years after the tragedy. We had gotten so much attention at the house, she said. People came in droves just to look at the property, and we were next door. I was invited to share my point of view and I agreed to that. This is a very quiet neighborhood with extremely friendly people. It's a peaceful, loving neighborhood where families get together. But that all changed in August 2018 when Watts' wife Shanann and their 2 daughters disappeared. Watts made televised pleas for their safe return, but he was arrested within days. He later pleaded guilty in exchange for prosecutors' vow not to seek the death penalty. It was horrible, Knox explained. I remember seeing Shanann a few times, and we just waved as neighbors. I would see the girls playing out in the backyard because my son's backyard was just a stone's throw away from their house. I didn't move in until later, but I just remember them being so sweet. The little girls would always wave and say hi. I remember Bella was a bit quieter than Celeste, who was always full of energy and saying, "Hi lady." I just remember seeing them swinging and playing. They just looked very happy together. After the disappearance, Knox said that everyone in town felt Watts' demeanor was strange. My son said that if it were his family, he would have been looking everywhere, he would have been studying every second of any home cameras looking for any single clue, and I agree with him, Knox said. Chris just appeared uncomfortable. And even when he gave interviews on his porch, there was just a total lack of emotion. It was just offsetting. I think a lot of people saw that but couldn't believe it. I can understand being in shock, but there has to be some emotion there in losing your family. Watts previously told police he killed his pregnant wife after she strangled Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3. But in February 2019, 3 months after the 36-year-old was sentenced to life in prison, he told authorities during a prison visit that the initial claim was a lie, and he was responsible for the killings. He said detectives were the first to mention that Shanann, 34, may have killed their children and he just went with it. Knox said there was a perpetual sadness that overshadowed the property following the disappearance and murders. I would just sit out on the porch and watch their yard, where the girls used to play, said Knox. The yard began to deteriorate, and the weeds grew up. The house also deteriorated. There was just a real sense of sadness. Many people in the town would leave things on the porch and cry. And then so many people started to drive by the house and just look or take pictures. One time, I even heard somebody call Shanann's name. I looked out and there was a man in a car yelling out for her several times. This was over a year later. But for whatever reason, he thought the family was still held up in the house or something. I had to go out frequently and check for lit candles, Knox added. One time, someone left 2 Happy Meals for the girls on the porch. Some were compelled to make contact with the family. It was incredibly disturbing. And there has been so much speculation in the YouTube community. They even call it Watts Island, where they have these ongoing speculations about the case and dissect every portion of it. I felt very sad when Shanann's dad had to fly all the way to Colorado just to tell people to stop harassing his family after having gone through so much. There was just a lot of negative energy. Watts said he strangled Shanann in their bed after he told her their marriage was over, and she said he would never see their children again. Watts said his wife correctly suspected that he was having an affair, but he did not tell her about his ongoing relationship with a co-worker before killing Shanann. Authorities have speculated that Watts wanted a chance to start over with the woman. Watts told investigators that the woman never asked him to get rid of his family, but their relationship may have contributed to his actions. After he strangled Shanann, Watts said Bella came into their bedroom clutching a blanket and asked what was wrong with her mother. Watts claimed his wife wasn't feeling well. Their daughter continued watching as Watts wrapped the body in a bed sheet and began crying when he pulled it down the stairs of their home, he said. Watts said he put her body on the floor of his truck's back seat. When he went inside, Celeste was also awake. According to Watts, he put the girls into the back seat of the truck, where they occasionally napped on each other's laps as he drove. Each child had a blanket, and Celeste also brought a stuffed animal. Watts claimed he had no plan for his daughters but drove to an oil work site about 40 miles east of the family's home. He worked there as an operator for an oil and gas producer. He told police he pulled Shanann's body from the truck as the girls asked, "What are you doing to Mommy?" He said he went back to the truck and used Celeste's blanket to smother her as Bella watched from a seat beside her sister. He then put Celeste's body inside an oil tank before returning to the truck and smothering Bella using the same blanket. Her last words were "Daddy, no," he told police, adding that Bella struggled under the blanket. He said he put her body inside another oil tank and buried Shanann's body nearby. Watts insisted that he did not plan to kill his wife or children. Knox said she wasn't surprised that Watts admitted to the murders but was relieved for the family's sake. She has since moved away from the property and written a book about how she made sense of the crime. Beyond Tragedy, a story of Shanann Watts. It's one thing you want to pay your respects, but people were coming by all the time, she said. It's a quiet neighborhood and people would just speed out in their cars where kids were playing ball. It was such a disruption and exhausting. I constantly had to look over my shoulder and be on high alert because you never knew who could be watching. And there was just this sadness on top of it all. Knox hopes the documentary will debunk a lot of misinformation that she said still exists about the case. There were no signs, she said. I never saw or heard anything that would make me suspect what happened. But this was a real family and a real tragedy.
Chris, time out for a minute. Take a deep breath.
I just want them back. I just want them to come back.
We live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
They just seemed like they were the perfect, happy American family.
So pink means...
That's just the test. She recorded everything, posted everything. You really felt like you were her friend. My husband's a genius.
There was something with how he presented himself to the world that gave everybody this really intense gut reaction that something is not right with this guy.
The last time I talked to her was this morning. She said she was going to take the kids to a friend's house, and she asked where she was going to be.
She had just vanished into thin air.
Shanann, if you're hearing this or you're out there, please let somebody know you're okay.
Shanann Watts and her two girls, 3 and 4 years old, are all missing. Watts is 15 weeks pregnant.
I want them back home,
But you know they're not coming back home.
Everything was closing in on him.
I did not hurt these girls.
Parents who truly believe that something has happened to their children are grieving.
He knew that he was going to kill his wife.
He's a true sociopath.
Daddies don't kill their babies, and how do you wrap your mind about that?
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong. My daddy, I love you.
Vonda also posted these little videos on a Facebook group.